We're in for a real treat tonight. I also want to say thank you so much for your generosity this morning. We raised over $20,000 for our mission fund, and also part of that will be given to disaster relief in Texas. And in Florida, the actual number was $20,190.91. So I figured that's about 250% of our normal contribution. So thank you for your generosity and your heart being in the Lord's work. Tonight, with it being Mission Emphasis Sunday, I have the pleasure to introduce to you Kosi Mpofu. And you don't know this, but I butchered that name. And so I remember one time in the conference room in the Bible department, Kosi, you may have forgotten this, but we worked for about 15 minutes for me to pronounce his name correctly, and it didn't work. So he knows this, and so he goes by Kosi. So when you see him in the foyer after services, he will answer to Kosi. Kosi was our president at Freed-Hardeman. He was the president of the student body. He was one of the leaders on campus for many things, social events, but also spiritual events. I think he was even leader of the Preachers Club for a while on campus. He's shaking and said yes. So he was even a leader of the Preachers Club for a while on Freed-Hardeman's campus. Kosi is a good friend of mine. We would meet once a week. We would try to shoot for 2 times a week, but most time it was 1 time a week. We would meet for chess. We played that for about 1.5 years. He let me win twice, I think. It was just so frustrating. I don't know. I think I had him, and then he beat me. And so, but Kosi's a fantastic person. He's from the country of Zimbabwe, and I won't steal any of his thunder. But he's a fantastic human being. He's a wonderful Christian. He loves the gospel. He loves people who are lost, and he wants to bring those two together. One of Kosi's best assets as a Christian man and a preacher of the gospel is his wonderful wife, Katie. Katie is from Colorado. Her brother is a preacher in Mississippi. Fantastic individual. But Katie has signed up for this life of work in Zimbabwe. They are actually, I'm not going to steal any of your announcements during the presentation, right? Okay, so I'll let Kosi talk a little bit more about Katie. And but fantastic. We'll not find a better Christian couple that you'll find. They have a booth set out in the foyer that they'll entertain questions about some of the things they'll talk about in his presentation tonight. And so we're in for a real treat. And without further ado, Brother Kosi.
Well, good evening to you all. I hope you can hear me. If I sound a little funny, it's because I'm from Africa, so I apologize. I hope that you'll be able to understand me throughout the presentation. Really, first of all, my wife and I are so grateful for this opportunity. We want to tell you that we're so happy to be with you this evening, and we want to thank you for this opportunity that you've given us to talk to you about Zimbabwe Missions. I was speaking at Freed-Hardeman recently, and I was telling the single man over there, the single young man, I was telling them, I said, listen, I have the most beautiful woman in the world by my side. I said, if you're going to look for another woman, you're just shooting for number 2, because Katie is the most gorgeous lady in the whole world. So I'm thankful for what she means to the Lord's church, and I'm thankful for her willingness to come to Zimbabwe, to my home country, and work with me over there. As Isaac said, my name is Kosi. Don't worry about my name. It may look a little bit weird. In fact, somebody made fun of me. They said when they saw my name, they thought that somebody fell on the keyboard, and then they couldn't just type the right thing. No, that's my name, Kosi Mpofu, but I just go by Kosi, so you can just call me that. I came here in the United States in 2010. And in 2010, it was my first time in America. I weighed about 135 pounds. Now I weigh about over 200 pounds. So thank you, McDonald's and Taco Bell. I appreciate that very much. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm thankful for this opportunity to be with you here. I've been in the States again since 2010. I've tried to fit in, I'm trying to fit in here, down here in the South. It's not easy, for those foreigners coming here. Now I find myself saying things like, hey y'all, how y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? Thingamajigga or whatchamacallit or whatever, I try to fit in, and then I find myself saying, go Vols, you know what I'm talking about? No Vols here? Okay, that's fine. We're doing the Lord's work in Zimbabwe. A lot has been taking place in Zimbabwe. So many men have dedicated their lives coming to Zimbabwe to talk to people about Jesus. Let me tell you, I'm very thankful for all those men who have come to Zimbabwe before. Many of them Americans coming to Zimbabwe, talking to people about Jesus. And I'm so thankful for those men, because I stand here today because some people back in the day decided to come to Africa, leave these comforts of America, and come and dedicate a big chunk of their life to the people of Zimbabwe. I'm thankful for the missionaries around the world who go out to many countries and spread the gospel and talk to people about Jesus. But I'm here tonight to tell you more about the work that we are doing in Zimbabwe. My wife and I are thrilled about the opportunity to go back. In fact, we are going back to Zimbabwe exactly a year from this month. In 2018, in September, we plan to pack our bags and go to Zimbabwe. In fact, if we had it our way, we would move right now. But we're so excited. Right now, we're in the stage of preparing for that work. A lot has taken place already. A lot is still going to take place in Zimbabwe. And I'd like to share with you, with the time that we have this evening, about that work and what we are doing in Zimbabwe. Here's some quick facts about Zimbabwe, in case you didn't know where Zimbabwe was. Zimbabwe is in the southern region of Africa. Believe me not, I do have to say that sometimes, because some lady came to me and she said, "Hey, did you drive from Zimbabwe?" And I said, "Yes, I did drive to the airport, and then I got on the plane and flew over here." So Zimbabwe is far away. It's about 17 hours from Atlanta to South Africa, and then I have to fly and go to Zimbabwe. So it's a long flight when we go home. I just love it. Some people hate it, but I just love flying. Here's some few facts about Zimbabwe that maybe you didn't know about. The population of Zimbabwe is about 14 million people. And then in that particular country that we are using right now, the United States currency. At some point in Zimbabwe, there was hyperinflation. In fact, if you look up Zimbabwe at all, you might find that coming up again and again. There was hyperinflation, meaning you will go to a grocery store, you will go to a shop buying some eggs. Maybe you will buy the eggs for like $10 today. When you go tomorrow, maybe there might be $20. By the end of the week, there will be like $100. And then at some point, we had a dollar note that was like 1 billion, and another one was 1 trillion. So the hyperinflation was so bad that they decided to do away with the Zimbabwean money. Right now, if you were to take a trip to Zimbabwe, you will find them using the United States currency. Alongside with other currencies from around the world, they use the pound, and they also use South African money, and so on and so forth, just so that people would not raise prices in Zimbabwe. So right now, they're using that currency. Also, the official language is spoken in Zimbabwe. One of them is called Shona. It's mostly spoken in the northern region of Zimbabwe. The one I speak is called Ndebele, and that's the second one. They're spoken in the southern region of Zimbabwe. It's a pretty cool language, actually. You know how you guys have your tongue twisters, right? The Peter Piper, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to finish it. And the seashells, blah, blah, blah. We have ours as well. It goes something like this. Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? Some of you are wondering, what does that mean? Let me tell you what it means. It means you can meet me afterwards and I can tell you what that means. So we have that tongue twister. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty amazing. We like talking that language. In fact, if you go to Zimbabwe also, English is the official language of Zimbabwe. So if you would go to Zimbabwe, you would have troubles communicating with people. Another thing for you to know about Zimbabwe, we have Victoria Falls. It's one of the World Heritage Sites. It's a very pretty place. You can look that up. It's one of the biggest waterfalls in the world. And if you go there, it's one of the 7 wonders of the world. If you go there, it's pretty cool. Many people come there. We have the Big Five. If you go to our table back there, there's those 5 animals. We have all those wild animals: the elephants, the lions, the cheetahs, the rhino, and so on and so forth. So Zimbabwe boasts of some attractive places. The other thing that I did want to talk to you about is the religion in Zimbabwe. If you were to look up Zimbabwe, probably you'll find out that Zimbabwe is known as a Christian nation. Yeah, they say that because most people, yeah, they do believe in Jesus. But unfortunately, while many people do believe in Jesus, there are some people who are preaching the wrong things. They're not preaching the entire truth. They're doing some false teachings. You also have a big chunk of people who follow the African traditional religion. And so you'll find some people who will worship these false gods, the African traditional religion tribe, and then they'll also go to church. And so there's so many false teaching going on, and that is why it's essential for people to go and keep on praying for not only Zimbabwe, but many African countries that are like that. So here's some things about Zimbabwe that I just want to share with you this evening. But also I want to tell you about the work that is taking place in Zimbabwe. Let me share first of all the work that has already taken place in Zimbabwe. There's a group called Partners for Africa. It is run by a man and his wife. His name is Dorian Flynn. Maybe some of you may know him. But Dorian Flynn was born in South Africa, and then he was raised in Zimbabwe, and then he moved to the United States. He married a girl from Alabama, and so now they're together. They've been doing mission work for a long time. They did some mission work in the Caribbean, and then later on in his lifetime, he decided he wanted to go back to his home country and do some mission work in Zimbabwe, as well as in South Africa and other countries as well. So they started an organization called Partners for Africa. You can learn more about their work at partnersforafrica.com. Now, the work that they're doing they have a tagline, good news, good works. And because they are about emphasizing the good news and good works as well, I want to share with you some of the 3 things that they're doing right now in Zimbabwe. And these things are some things that I am also associated with, and these things are something that I've also benefited from. Number 1, they have a project called the Mom Project, making orphan meals. It's a very, very great project that they do. They feed about tens of thousands of kids in Southern Africa, and they do about 700 feedings of children on a weekly basis. So it's a pretty great program. Many people here in America donate money and support these programs, and they're able to do this to the people in Zimbabwe. They've been able to assist people in the inner cities and so on and so forth. Let me tell you what's great about this program. This program is so powerful because it helps many people in Zimbabwe, especially children. There are people in the rural areas, for example, in one school called Airport Primary School. And in that primary school, I'm talking about grades 1 through grade 7. These kids walk to school back and forth every day, sometimes in cold weather, sometimes in hot weather. And as they walk back and forth from home to school, some of these kids don't even have food. So they have an empty stomach when they're going to school. In fact, I've been told of stories of kids who walk to school, and along the way, people pick them up because they've passed out, and some of them faint along the way, just because they don't have the means to. See, the poverty rate in Zimbabwe is so high, unemployment rate is so high, many people cannot afford the basic necessities. And so it is programs like these, the Mom Project, that comes into the countries like Zimbabwe, so helpful to these children, and they do that on a weekly basis. On Fridays, they cook a meal, give them nutritious food, and these kids, I tell you what, when they receive that food, they are so thankful. And so they're very glad to receive this food. But one thing that is important about this project, though, is that when we meet kids like these, we are able to reach them by talking to them about Jesus. But not only do we get to reach the kids, but we also get to reach the parents as well. So I'm so thankful for projects like the Mom Project, because it is helping a lot of people and making a difference in the many lives of the people of Zimbabwe. Here's the second project that they're doing. It's called the Dead Project. They drill wells, and they go around in Africa, because in the part, especially where I'm from, in the southern region of Zimbabwe, there's not a lot of rain sometimes. It's pretty dry. And so there are many people who have to walk, again, miles and miles just to find some water. I'm not talking about clean water now. I'm talking about just finding some water, taking it back home, boiling it so that it can be clean. So you can imagine when they do programs like these, when they put a well closer to these families, it really makes a difference in their lives. So we're thankful for these projects that they're doing over there in Zimbabwe. Here's some few facts about this. They've drilled about 50 wells in the past 8 years. So that's a pretty big number, and we're thankful for that. They've provided a water system to a clinic that was recently built in Matebeleland. Now that we're finding where there, Matebeleland is a region in southern Zimbabwe. There was no clinic in that area, and so the Churches of Christ were able to acquire some piece of land, and that land they've built a clinic, and that clinic is helping a lot of people. And there are many people over there, they don't have access to a hospital or a clinic. In fact, they just lived with any disease that they had because they didn't have anywhere to go. So this clinic is seeing hundreds and hundreds of people, and these people are going over there with any problem. I mean, if somebody breaks their leg, they're going to go over there. If somebody wants to give birth, they're going to go over there. Yeah, it's a clinic, but it is helping a lot of people. But again, I don't want you to miss the picture. It's great to help people out physically, But as we're helping them out, we're also making means into getting into their families and talking to them about Jesus so that they may also be helped out spiritually speaking. Here's a picture here of a family that's enjoying that well there. You can see the little kids. They're so excited to see the well closer to them, a reliable, clean source of water. So we're so thankful for projects like these. Here's the last one that I want to talk to you about. The other one is called the Egg Project. And it's called the African Container Transport. And what they do is they collect not pieces of clothing, but they collect clothing from the congregations here in America. And so as they do this, they've partnered with about 50 congregations. If the people donate their clothing items that they don't use anymore, that T-shirt maybe that you don't care about anymore, you think maybe it's so last year or whatever, the T-shirt maybe that you don't like to wear all the time, the jacket that maybe you just throw away, that could really help somebody else in another country. And so we're thankful for these projects like these, that they pack these boxes and send them to Zimbabwe and other countries as well. 40,000 boxes collected annually of clothing. Our people receive these clothes and they love them so much. And so I'm very thankful for this. In fact, I have benefited. There's in fact a golf shirt that I own in my house. I actually got it through this program. Here's a picture here. As you can see, there's 3 pictures here. There's a container right there, those semi-trucks that you see on the road. Some of them are carrying those clothes. And then they take those, the semi-truck goes to Zimbabwe, and once it gets there to Zimbabwe, they take the boxes, they start unloading them, they lay them out, spread them out, and then they start distributing them to the people, members of the church, and then everyone else who may be in need in whatever community these clothes are able to reach. So these programs are helping a lot of people. This is why the program I've been involved with right now, they're called partnersforafrica.com. You can learn more on their website, and you can help out with them on that project as well if you want to get involved with that. But what I really want to talk to you about is what my wife and I are going to be doing in Zimbabwe. Again, my wife and I are thrilled about going to Zimbabwe. We're so excited. We're moving there in 2018, like I said. We're so excited to go to Zimbabwe. But as we're doing this, we have called ourselves Zimbabwe Missions, for lack of a better creative word, but we're calling ourselves Zimbabwe Missions, and the tagline is faith and works for a reason, because we want to help people to grow spiritually, help people to realize and come to know Jesus. But at the same time, we want to help people out with any physical needs that they may have. Now, here are 3 things that we want to emphasize. Here's our 3 goals. As we go to Zimbabwe and work there, here are 3 goals that we have set for ourselves. 1, the work that we want to do evangelism. But before I talk about that, here's a picture right here of my wife and I. The 2 other people there that you see, that's Emily and William Glover. Emily and William Glover are good friends of ours. Emily went to school with us. They're members of the church, and they have taken mission trip to Zimbabwe with us, and they had been contemplating serving the Lord, and they've decided to join my wife and I and join our team and go work with us in Zimbabwe. So they've decided to dedicate about 3 to 5 years of their lifetime in Zimbabwe. So we're so excited that they're going to get to come and work with us in Zimbabwe. As you can see there's the 5 of us. I say there's 5 of us there because you can't really tell my wife is pregnant. So we're expecting a little one next year in February. So I'm excited about that. So there's 5 of us right there, my wife and I, and we're going to be so excited to take the little one to Zimbabwe. But I think the people on the plane are not going to like us so much if the baby starts crying. But we're excited about that, maneuvering all those challenges. We're so excited that Will and Emily get to come to and work with us in Zimbabwe. We're going to be working in a predominantly rural area, so there's going to be a lot of black people around. So I'm thankful that there's going to be some white people around, so that my wife, gets to, get a feel of what it feels like to have white people around. I don't know what that means, right? This is a revenge. My wife gets to go back home and be surrounded by black people. I've been here since 2010, just surrounded by white people, so she's going to see how that feels like. Here's the work that we are doing right now in Zimbabwe. We don't want to lose sight of this, because we do truly believe, that if we call ourselves Christians, we all have a task and obligation to share Jesus with other people. We have the good news, for crying out loud. And we cannot afford to be stingy people with the good news. We have to share with the people around us. And so we are so excited to go to Zimbabwe and get to share the good news with the people of Zimbabwe by hosting things like youth workshops and gospel meetings. And we're so excited to be working in Zimbabwe and sharing. So we want to make this our goal, to go back to Zimbabwe and make sure that we're evangelizing at all times. We're going to be planting a local congregation at a school that I'm about to talk about here in a few minutes. So we want to make sure, one, that we go over there in Zimbabwe and help people out by evangelizing. Number two, what we want to do is also be involved in encouragement works. In other words, benevolent works. We want to participate in the feedings that I talked about earlier. We want to also be helping out in distributing clothes and collecting them, and also helping people out with groceries. I tell you what, there are many people, they cannot afford groceries, and so when we go over there and say, here's just a loaf of bread and a bag of sugar, I tell you what, those people are so thankful for simple acts like that. What we also want to emphasize is education. A part of our work is going to be evangelism, part of our work is going to be encouragement, but a big part of it as well is going to be education. Now I want to tell you here what happened and what we're talking about here when it comes to education. In 2012 or something like that, my wife and I took a mission trip to Zimbabwe. When we were done with our mission trip, we had been there for about 2 or 3 months. At the end of our mission trip, we were thinking, what is it that we can do? What's one thing that we can make like a big project so that we can really help make a dent in spreading the good news in Zimbabwe? We started looking around, trying to think what we're going to do, what kind of work are we going to be involved in when we prepare, when we come back. And then it hit us, the people of Zimbabwe love education, they love going to school, they love being involved with school. So we're like, maybe in the future, maybe 20 years from now, we're going to build a school in Zimbabwe. We're going to keep on raising funds, and maybe 20 years from now, we're going to have like a school that is going to be a Christian school run by the Churches of Christ, and it's going to help a lot of people in Zimbabwe. And so we came back to the United States that year, and then when we got back, it was like around August or something like that, and when we got back, I received a call from that guy. His name is Dorian Flynn that I talked to you about, Partners for Africa guy. He called me, he said, hey, Kosi, remember that clinic that we built in the rural area there? That clinic that we built, that the government was so happy and so pleased with our work as the members of the church that this congregation, Churches of Christ, have built this clinic helping the people in the rural areas. The government has now even so excited to give us 70 acres of land to build a school. And so Dorian says to me, Kosi, there's this school that we're building. It's going to be a Church of Christ school. It's going to be a Christian school, and I want you to be the principal of that school. And I tell you what, we were beyond shocked. Because my wife and I were thinking, we're going to build a school 20 years from now. And when we got back, we prayed. We're like, God, please help us as we prepare to go to Zimbabwe. And I tell you what, you better be careful what you're asking from God, because he's going to give it to you one day, right? And we're like, God, please help us out. God, please be with us, because we want to build a school. We want to help the people of Zimbabwe. We want to make a difference in the people of Zimbabwe. And God answered our prayers immediately. So right now, as we speak, there's a school that is in Zimbabwe. They're building it. It's going to take about 10 years to build the school. If you go to the back there, there's a map laid out of the whole school. There's a map of the classrooms, how they're going to be laid out. And this school was so excited about. Right now, there's already a board consisting of members of the church that has been put in place. I'm going to be the principal of the school. My wife is going to work with the financial things of the school. That couple that we talked about earlier, Emily and Will, they're going to be working at the school. They're going to be teachers at the school. Will is going to work with the animals. He's going to be raising goats and cattle. That guy loves goats. He's a weird guy, but he's not here. I'm not supposed to say that. He's a great guy. We're so excited to work with them. And this school is going to help a lot of people. Let me tell you why. Because through this school, we're going to be able to reach the families and the students as well. We're going to be able to talk to people about Jesus. This is going to be a private school accredited by the Ministry of Education in Zimbabwe. And so the school is going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be in a fully accredited high school. Kids, when they go with the people in that area, there's no high school. There's only a primary school. So they don't have access to a high school. They all grow to grade 7 and then they just quit going to school. So this school is going to help them receive a high education. This school is going to help them them to get to know Jesus some more. And the school is going to help us to reach out to the students, their families, and the community of Philabusi. What our goal is to go there and plant a local congregation at our school. This school is going to be a hub for the churches of Christ in my region, and it's going to be a hub for people to come and have lectureships and workshops and so on and so forth. You can think about all those possibilities. The school is literally going to make a dent in the work in Zimbabwe. My wife there is standing with one of the ladies that we're going to be working with. Her name is Martha. She's going to also be working at the school. And my wife, the building behind them is a house that is being built right now of the people who are going to be living at the school. So construction is taking place. We're so excited about that. But Dorian Flynn, the guy for Partners for Africa, is raising all the funds for the building of the school. But what my wife and I are raising funds is for our own salary when we go over there and work at the school. But the school is going to be built over 10 years. It's going to cost about $800,000. And please keep that work in your prayers if you can. We're so excited about this school, and I'll be glad to talk to you more about that out there in the foyer. Now, we want you guys to get involved, right? I will be amiss if I'm here and if I'm a missionary and come here and don't tell you guys to get involved, because we're always asking for money and so on and so forth. That's the stigma, but that's okay. One thing that I do want you guys, maybe you may be wondering, how can I really get involved with this work? I don't know if I want to go to Africa. That's okay. You can still get involved from right here. You can pray for us. We really do truly need your prayers, because we need to have our heads in the game at all times. Pray for the work. Pray for my wife and I. Pray for the people of Zimbabwe. Pray that this school is going to help many people come to know Jesus. So please, we humbly ask that you keep us in your prayers. Number 2, participate. You can participate in several ways. You can participate by maybe taking a mission trip to Zimbabwe so you can see the work for yourself. Or you can participate by sharing this work with other people. Share this work with your friends, with your family, with other congregations, and tell them the kind of work that we're doing, and we'll be so happy if you help us out in that endeavor. Also, partner with us. We really do need people to help us out financially as well, whether it be a one-time donation or whether it be on a monthly basis. That would be so great. I hear that here in Chapel Hill Church of Christ, there's a millionaire. So I'm talking to you, wherever you are. If you have $1 million, I don't know who it is, okay? You're not raising your hand, that's okay. I'm talking to you. Please help us out. So if you help us out with $5, $10, whatever it may be, it really is going to make a difference in this Lord's work that is taking place in Zimbabwe. This is the work that we're doing in Zimbabwe. But as we conclude this evening, a couple things that I want you guys to remember about evangelism. Because evangelism is very important. It's a big part of what we are doing, and it's a big part of everyone who calls himself a Christian. I want you to know here from the book of Acts, there are so many examples of people who go about evangelizing, preaching Jesus, sharing the good news. And what can we learn from those people in the book of Acts? There's a couple of things that we can learn. 3 things that I want you guys to remember. Number 1, we need to evangelize at all times. Yeah, we don't have time off. No, we can't just take time off, a year off, and say, no, this is not part of our work, or this is just Isaac's job to evangelize. No, all of us as Christians, we have the good news, and God is asking us to evangelize at all times. The scriptures that I've shared with you here in Acts chapter 5, you find there Peter and them are thrown in prison, but even then when they're thrown in prison, no, they do not stop evangelizing. They get up on their feet. When people put them in prison, they keep on evangelizing at all times. You have also in book of Acts, after Stephen has been stoned to death, you would think that maybe the members of the church back then would have said, you know what, maybe I don't want to be a Christian anymore. But when you read there, especially in verse number 4, you are told that they all went out evangelizing. People like you and me went out talking to people about Jesus. I am so thankful for their courage, thankful for their work, thankful for the willingness that they had to go out to talk to people about Jesus. It is because those people went out that you and I are here today. But what about the people of the future? Our grandchildren, well, I'm not that old, I don't have grandchildren, but our grandchildren, the people of the next generation, for those people to know about Jesus, you and me have an obligation to evangelize at all times. Take an opportunity to talk to somebody about Jesus. Hey, Jesus loves you. Hey, I just want you to know Jesus cares for you. I want you to know that I'm praying for you. Jesus is here for you. Let's evangelize at all times. Number 2, when it comes to evangelism, we need to evangelize to guide. When we go to Zimbabwe to talk to people about Jesus, I know some people do this, but our goal is not to come back here to the States and say, hey, look at us, we've baptized 100,000 people. Look at us, we've dunked people in the water. How many people we've baptized? Listen, we want people to be baptized and accept Jesus Christ in their lives. But ultimately, our goal when we go out to talk to people to Jesus is to help guide them to know Jesus. Is to help guide them to come to know the truth. In the book of Acts, you find Philip going to the Ethiopian eunuch. No, Philip didn't get there and say, hey, you Ethiopian eunuch, I need to baptize you right now. No, he didn't say that. He wanted to help him out to come to understand so that he himself, the Ethiopian eunuch, will come to accept Jesus on his own terms. And that's the goal of evangelism. It's not about us. It's not about me. It's about us being involved in helping people, guiding them to come to know the truth. But number 3, evangelize to the unlikely. I like this story in Acts chapter 9. Because in Acts chapter 9, sometimes we don't realize this. And maybe sometimes we just evangelize to the people that we know, people we're comfortable with. But I'm here to tell you that God is asking us, is challenging us to step out of our comfort zone and take that leap of faith and talk to somebody, talk to a stranger about Jesus. Remember Paul. He's a great guy. We know the great works that he did. But even Paul, somebody evangelized him. Somebody talked to him about Jesus. His name is Ananias. And when God asked him to go talk to Paul, he was a little hesitant because he was like, I don't know about this. I don't know if we're supposed to talk to this guy. Go with me in Acts chapter 9, verse number 10. Listen to what the Bible says there. Now there was a disciple at Damascus named Ananias. The Lord said to him in a vision, Ananias. And he said, here I am, Lord. And the Lord said, rise and go to the street called Straight, at the house of Judas. Look for a man of Tarsus named Saul, for behold, he is praying, and he has seen in a vision a man named Ananias come and lay his hands on him, so that he might regain his sight. But Ananias said, Lord, I have heard from many about this man, how much evil he has done to your saints and to Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all who call your name. But the Lord said, go, for he is a chosen instrument of mine to carry my name before the Gentiles and the kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for my sake and my name. So Ananias departed and entered the house. I want you to understand that, first of all, God was saying, Ananias, I want you to go to this person. And he was like, God, I don't know. I don't know if we're supposed to talk to this guy. He's been persecuting your church. He's been persecuting the people who call your name. But God says, no, I want you to go because he's a chosen instrument of mine. Imagine if we all just went. Yeah, even to those people that maybe when we look at, we might say, I don't know if I can talk to that guy. Oh, that guy looks a little weird. I don't know if I can talk to him. Yeah, that person has been doing so many bad things. He doesn't even deserve Jesus. But what if we change our attitude about evangelism and we say, we're going to step out of our comfort zone and we're going to talk to people about Jesus? Maybe, just maybe, we might also reach another Paul, another individual who might help even bring many others to Jesus. And so, yeah, we need to evangelize at all times. We need to evangelize to help guide people to the truth. But we also need to evangelize to the unlikely. Challenge yourself, maybe to take a mission trip to a place that you would have never been otherwise, and talk to the people about Jesus. Challenge yourself to talk to everyone around you about Jesus. Why? Because God has saved you and me. And I think that it's just only fair that we can repay him by talking to people about his son, Jesus. as we conclude here this evening, I hope that you will stay connected with us. And there are a couple ways that you can stay connected with our work. And some things that you can do, you can visit us on our website at ZimbabweMissions.org. You can find us on Facebook at Zim Missions. You can also find us on Instagram. You can email us if you want to at Mpofu at ZimbabweMissions.org. We'd love to talk to you about our work. We'd love to chat with you, and we're going to be at the back there. And please don't hesitate to come and talk to us. We also have a sign-up form at the back. If perhaps maybe you just want to get some updates whenever we move to Zimbabwe, we're going to be sending people updates of what we are doing, how things are going. You can sign up your name as well and be glad to share that with you. But as we conclude here today, I'm not here to say, hey, I need all of you to come to Zimbabwe with me. But I hope that from this presentation, the one thing that you will take away is that you and I, as God's children, literally, not just the preacher, all of us have an obligation to share the good news. Jesus told us to go out into the world and talk to people about Him. Maybe you're here tonight and maybe you feel like you have not been living up to what Jesus is asking you to do, and maybe you need the prayers of the church. Maybe you need to come up and repent and say, God, help me out to be involved in evangelism. And maybe you're here tonight, maybe you've not accepted Jesus. You've heard people talk about Jesus and you've not accepted Him. I hope that you will come to know Him, because Jesus is just waiting for you. And the invitation is open for all. And I hope you will take advantage of this invitation to make yourself a better Christian. May God bless all of you. And my prayer is that God help us all to be evangelistic Christians. If there's anything we can do for you tonight, why don't you come forward together as we stand and sing.